Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Join me, let's transform this black heat together. Before we continue, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and share. So we always begin your makeup by cleaning your face or the clearance space using a micellar water and a wipe. After cleaning thoroughly, I go in with my Kiss Beauty Fix Spray to hydrate her skin. Then after that, I use my Mismetic moisturizer again to moisturize her skin, right, her face. Then I use my hand to just massage it into her skin. Moving on to primer, I use my V Beauty mattifying primer. So I just apply it around the area which produces oil. Then I use my face prep brush to just press it into her skin. Then after that, I finalize my face prep by hydrating again using the Kiss Beauty Fix Spray. So for foundation, I'm using the V Beauty Tube Foundation in the shade Melanin. So the foundation dries up pretty fast. That's why you see me blending as soon as I apply, right? Yeah. So this foundation is good for oily skin. So after applying it, I just make sure I blend thoroughly using my very soft and damp beauty sponge from CPD. Moving on to face contour, I'm using my Adventure foundation. That's the darkest shade of Adventure foundation in the shade Espresso here. So I just apply underneath the cheekbone and I'm blending, moving towards the temple to get her face snatched, right? So after that, I just use my soft and damp, the same side of my beauty sponge which I use in blending the foundation. I just use in blending the contour, and when blending the contour, I make sure I take off the line separating the rest of the face. So for blush, I'm using that red shade from my Girl 3D blush palette. So I just applied around the outer corner of the eye. Then I'm blending, moving from the upper of the cheek towards the temple. For concealer, I'm using my Adventure spotless concealer. It is 2 shades lighter than her skin. So I just apply around the highlighted area, that is the under eye, bridge of the nose and the forehead. And then I'm using a clean section of my beauty sponge again to blend everything in.
I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain.
So when blending the highlighter, make sure you blend the line separating the highlighter and the blush.
I'll be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays. Way back a year ago, I've changed for the better this time. I thought I would never be fine. I strive just to say I'm alright. And for the first time in a long time I'm alright. I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago. But I will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays. Wait, right a year ago.
I'm going back, I'm not turning. Way back a year ago. Going back, I'm not falling.
I push on my chips and go.
So guys, to set the face, I use my mirror setting powder in the shade not ginger, the shade cinnamon. So to further highlight the under eye, to make it brighter, I'm using my powder from my beauty powder palette, which is 2 shades lighter than her skin. So I just apply around the under eye because I wanted the under eye to be brighter. So to contour To fill the blank spaces, I'm using the powder which is equivalent to our skin tone. See from my beauty powder palette, right? Can you see the way she's doing? Because I don't want any smile line. That's why you see her doing like that. Yeah, I don't want any smile line. I make sure I just put powder around that area. So for the nose, to contour the nose, I'm using my powder again from the Beauty powder palette, but this time around it's not 2 shades darker than the skin. It's not the same shade used in contouring the rest of the face, right? I'm using the 1 shade darker because I don't want the nose to be too dark. So to contour the under of the cheekbone again and the temple, I'm using my powder again from another powder palette which is 2 shades darker than her skin. Then after that, I just use my big fluffy brush to blend in everything. Then I'll use my Kiss Beauty Fix Spray to melt down the powder effect. So to bake her face, I'm using my Miracle setting powder again in the shade Cinnamon, right? So I just left excess quantities of the setting powder around the under eye such that the eyeshadow fallout can be taken off, and there will be no crease line around the under eye. Guys, if you notice, I always use this particular song a year ago in almost all my videos. I'm so in love with that song. Like, it just keep reminding me that I can be a better version of myself and so on. Yeah. So I was in a very toxic relationship, but ever since I left, I walked away, my life is getting better and better every day. Yeah. So for the brows, I always begin by laying down the hair. So I use my Nikki Signature Brows Gel to lay down the hair. After which, I went in with my setting powder, the Miracle setting powder, to make sure that the moist area is dry up. Then to begin outlining the brows, I'm using my KR Brows Gel or Brows Pomade, the brown shade, to produce my outline. Then I'm using my angle brush to help produce the outline. So after producing the outline for one section, I just move to the other, do the same thing. I always start like, sometimes I start from the beginning, sometimes I start halfway, right? Sometimes I just leave the beginning, I just leave it like that for it to look natural. Sometimes I just start from the beginning. So after producing my outline, this time I'm not using pencil today to fill. I'm not using my Davis pencil. I'll just use I'm just using just the brows gel, right? So I'm using the brows gel, the KR brows gel, with my angle brush. So I just make sure I clean my angle brush. I make the tips to be looking very pointed, Then I'm producing just stroke. I'm using the tips of my angle brush to produce strokes which look like hair to make the brows look very natural, right? So I'll do that for the other side before moving on to concealing the brows. So to conceal the brows, I'm using my spotless concealer, my angle brush from Issa and Those, my big fluffy brush from Dora Makeup. So I just use the tips of my angle brush to conceal the edges. So when concealing, I don't just like conceal the entire outline which I produce, right? I just conceal just the edges, because when you completely wipe off the outline using with your concealer, the brows doesn't look natural again. It doesn't look, the beauty of the brows is not really there again. So I just conceal just the edges of my brows. Then after that, I'm using my fluffy brush to blend in, because we cannot leave that area like that. So I'll first of all use my angle brush to pull down the concealer. Then I'm using my fluffy brush to blend in. So for the upper section, I'm using my V Beauty foundation, the same shade I used for her face. Yeah, I'm using the V Beauty foundation in the shade Melanin. That's 7. So I'm using the tips of my angle brush to conceal the brows again. So I'll just do that for this section. Make sure you don't completely wipe out the outline, right? So that the brows will look natural. The outline should still be there, just concealing by the edges of the outline, the rough edges. So after concealing, I'm using my small fluffy angle brush to blend in the excess foundation. Then after that, I'll just do the same thing for the other section. So immediately after I'm done concealing, I'll go in with my powder for my powder palette on all the area I concealed, because it's looking moist. We want that area to look dry, so I'll just go in with my powder palette to make that area look dry. So for the ending, I'm using a lighter powder. For the beginning of the brows, I'm using a darker shade because we don't want any harsh line. So for eyeshadow, I begin by placing my eyeshadow base. So I'm using my Adventure concealer. That's a lighter shade of my Adventure concealer on the eyelid. So I just placed it around the eyeballs. Then I use my fluffy brush to blend in the concealer. At this point, she's going to stay like that till I'm almost done with the eyeshadow, because if she keep opening and closing the eyes, the concealer can form crease, right? I just ask her to stay still like that. Then I go with this Ox Blush shade from my Girl 3D, my Girl eyeshadow palette. Yeah, so I just apply around the edges. I'm just smoothing out the edges of my of the eyeballs where the concealer lies, moving from the outer corner towards the inner corner. Then I'm going in with this dark brown shade for my V Beauty Naked palette. So I'm just applying around the outer corner of the eye. So I just use the excess and blend towards the inner corner. Then for the main color, the area which I left, I'm using this green shade. Sometimes I just like to try out abnormal eyeshadow colors. It turned out to be nice. So I'm just using this green shade on the space I left. Use my flat brush, but I wanted it to be well pigmented, so I'll go in with the green pigment or glitter and place again on it, right? So I'll do that for the other side. Then I go in now with my eyelining, which I'm using the other shade, which is a black shade from my KR makeup gel. So I'm using this dark shade and my angle brush, the same angle brush which I use in producing my brows outline. This is the end of the tutorial, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know at the comment section below what you think about the look. Right, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Bye, guys.